back to the Yap Section, the show where we talk about pop culture, music, and fashion. I'm your host, Mia, and today we are talking about the Ozempic epidemic. Ariana Grande has kicked off her Eternal Sunshine Tour, which has reignited some discussion around her body and the trend of skinniness that's been going on in Hollywood. Images have been released from the tour where you can essentially see her skeleton. And to be very clear, this episode is not to bash on Ariana. In fact, I'm going to try very hard to limit how much I speak about her and speak about her body image for a number of reasons, but including because people like to really hyperfixate on Ariana Grande as the problem, but she isn't the problem. She is unfortunately a victim of a larger problem that we are seeing in Hollywood, in social media, in society as a whole in general. And that is the discussion that we're going to be having today. But it's nothing new. We've been having this conversation since she has started the press tour for Wicked Part 1. And I would just like to say to all the people who are like, wow, she looks so much better. She looks so much healthier. It was all Cynthia Erivo's fault. I want you to look deep within yourself and ask yourself why, when these two women were clearly going through something, you automatically chose to blame the black woman and not the white woman with a history, a well-documented history on the internet of having an eating disorder. And again, this isn't to bash her. I do think this is a very delicate topic. A lot of people like to almost kind of, not victim blame, but look at Ariana and be like, oh, well, you are promoting and spreading this imagery and it is your fault and all this other kinds of things. But on the very flip side of this, you have to understand it's not, I think, something intentional that she's doing. She's very clearly struggling and battling something within herself. And not all of the time are the people who are celebrities or front-facing people to the camera trying to project a certain kind of image, if that makes sense. That is kind of just a byproduct of what happens when you are in the public eye, unfortunately. But one of the more interesting aspects of this conversation is that I think we have to talk about the tie between weight and almost kind of morality within society. But I read a beautiful BuzzFeed article kind of talking about this woman and her struggle with having an eating disorder and kind of the societal pressures and the familial pressures, mainly her mother, that kind of led up to her having this eating disorder. And it was very clear within the article that the mother herself struggled with the pressure that society puts upon women to have this very specific type of body image. And I just wanted to kind of share this quote that really stood out to me, which was, "This isn't about calling out celebrities and it isn't about body shaming. It's about the unspoken message all of this is sending. When it comes to health, thinner is always better. This isn't just frustrating, it's dangerous." Her mom equated being thin with the worth of a woman and believed it would grant access to power, success, and opportunities. And that is kind of the overall messaging that I think society seems to be driving, both in terms of in Hollywood and on social media. We have seen so many celebrities get praise for dropping weight and looking younger and thinner than ever. We have seen an increase in showing off clavicles to, really show how skinny they are on red carpets. And this is especially something dangerous that we don't really talk about. It's dangerous for everybody, to be clear. For women young and old, both from a younger age and starting off this journey for these younger women of maybe battling a lifelong disorder, to older women who are now going to have to face a whole bunch of health problems, even more than the younger women, because as your body is aging, it needs more nourishment and it needs more strength and it needs all these other kinds of things. It doesn't need starvation. It doesn't need a miracle medicine. And I remember one time on TikTok, I saw a woman who was talking about the key to aging well is eating well. And I really think that is a message that everybody should take to heart, because people get so self-obsessed with red light therapy and all these serums and creams and stuff that'll keep you looking young and healthy forever. But I think we have to talk about the fact that those serums and creams and everything else aren't really going to do jack all for you if you are starving your body, if you are undernourishing it. It will not be good for you in the long run. I mean, older people are already prone to things like chronic skin fragility and lower bone density and a whole bunch of other health problems that can be, you know, mitigated or at least reduced by having a healthy diet. And more than that, there's this emphasis not on strength in Hollywood, but on thinness, because there's different types of thinness. You know what I mean? Like, there's thinness from working out a lot. There is such thing as working out too much, so I'm not promoting that either, but like working out and being slimmer with maybe more like a toned figure. But that's not what Hollywood is pushing. Hollywood is just pushing straight like skeleton. Some of these women, there is not really much between their skin and their bones. And in a different article, a woman was talking about how this trend is also leaking into older women. She's talking specifically about Demi Moore, but if we want to go back to the Wicked press tour, I remember someone pointing out that it was very sad to see specifically Michelle Yeoh kind of fall into this trap along with her Wicked co-stars, because Michelle Yeoh brought her career up on being this very strong, powerful woman in action movies, and that required muscle, that required tone, like that required a different kind of physique than she has now. That's not to say that she has to keep doing action movies as she had in the past, although she was killer in Everything Everywhere All at Once, but it does speak to seeing this woman who has been a figure and kind of the epitome of like a athletic, that's the word I'm looking for, athletic woman kind of now go the other route and away from muscle and down more to losing fat in what appears to not be the healthiest kind of way. And this message isn't just being pushed by celebrities, obviously. There's also this increasing danger on social media, and unfortunately I'm never going to say social media is net negative or net good, especially as someone who got her start on social media. But I mean, there is always the very large drawbacks and pitfalls of social media, which is anyone can get onto the internet and say literally anything. There doesn't need to be a fact check. There doesn't need to be, you know, any kind of criteria that you need to meet to give medical advice on TikTok or Instagram, which has led to the rise of skinny talk and influencers like Liv Schmidt going online and sharing to these young, impressionable girls how to be skinny. And it's not, you know, work out and go on a calorie deficit. No, that would be the advice that the doctor would give you. Her advice is like, tomatoes are bad for you because they have this one thing in them and that's going to make you fat. Or don't eat bread in the bread basket because it's keeping you from your goals. There's no emphasis necessarily on like food as an idea of also being nourishment and happiness. It's literally just so restriction based, telling these young girls, don't eat this, don't eat that. It's labeling foods as good or bad, which foods for the most part inherently are not good or bad. Everything is okay in certain amounts of moderation. And that goes for, you can eat too many strawberries. I mean, not in the same way you can eat too much chocolate, but like there is a limit on the number of strawberries you can eat before it gets to an unhealthy point. And so demonizing and labeling these foods good or bad isn't teaching these younger impressionable audiences how to balance their diet or balance their plate. It's just teaching them, don't eat this or that. And if you eat this or that, then there's almost kind of a implication of moral failing within you, that you weren't tough enough or strict enough or disciplined enough to stick to your goals. If I seem particularly passionate about this subject, it's because I am. This is very close to what I wrote my college admission essay on, which was the idea of self-love and self-worth and how media images really affect that in us, even from a young age, what we're watching on TV. And this was, I didn't grow up with like social media at a young age. Social media really didn't come into play until maybe middle school, high school. So I cannot even imagine being like 8 to 9, 10 in this world right now, and your parent hands over their phone with all of these very false information and messages coming your way. And this is something that you now internalize and think from a very young age. It's scary. It's actually quite terrifying when you think about it. And it's also doubly sad as we are coming off, you know, the heels a decade ago of really pushing body positivity and different body sizes. And it hurts my soul even to see like a lot of the plus size representation. And I understand maybe a lot of them lost weight for personal reasons themselves, but I don't know if the younger generation has like a Lizzo to look up to, or even Meghan Trainor to look up to. And there's been a lot of discussion about Meghan Trainor within this context, because I mean, to be clear, Meghan Trainor was never even really that big. Not saying it would have been bad if she was, but it was very interesting how they plastered her as like the face of the body positivity movement to a certain extent anyways. I think it was because some of her music really was about embracing what you looked like no matter what you looked like, loving your curves, all this other kind of stuff. And I guess that's kind of the dangerous thing sometimes about being a person in the public image and building your persona off of something like body positivity or your body, because bodies are subject to change. And so a lot of people almost feel betrayed by her losing weight and kind of having this entirely new image that does not really seem as body inclusive or positive as it once was. I have mixed feelings about that because, you know, it's her body. It's her right to do whatever she wants to do with it, whether that means lose weight or gain weight. For all we know, maybe the weight she was at was causing some problems, health problems in her life that she needed to fix. We don't know that information. That's why pinpointing particular celebrities is always very difficult, because we don't really know what's going on in their lives. But I also understand the flip side of it, of it's like, if you were bigger in 2016 and you're bigger now and you're losing all of the people that you kind of used to look up to that would really be loud and proud about the way that they looked, yeah, I'd be a little bit pissed too. Especially because being curvy and these BBLs and everything else like that have been shoved down our throat for the last decade or so, and then the celebrities who have access to plastic surgeons, private trainers, nutritionists, all these other kind of things, turned around and was like, wait guys, never mind, actually I don't want to do this. The rest of us don't have access to the rest of that, unfortunately, and can't change our entire body composition in a year unless you just rolling in it like that. And most of us, especially in this economy, are not rolling in it like that. Obviously, adding and fueling to this fire of like weight loss and skinniness is the ever increasing rise of Ozempic and like Wegovy. And it was, I'm not gonna lie, almost very disheartening to see Serena Williams, who is a well-known athlete, well-known for her fashion and so many things about her beauty, become the face for a GLP-1. And also, I was kind of like, Serena, I do understand we have to get that bag, but like, I don't really know if you need the bag that bad, because also your husband owns Reddit. That's a whole other thing. But if you look at the posters of the GLP-1 that she is the face of, there's like a little asterisk at the bottom where it says that the one she's promoting isn't even the one that she lost the majority of the weight on, which I think is insane. And it's like, it feels a little bit betraying, especially as Serena Williams has been such a face, again, similar to Michelle Yeoh, for a different kind of body, a strong body, an athletic body, a body that does kind of the things that it was meant to do. And it hurts to kind of see, you know, her turn around and step into a different body and promote that body instead. Like, her body before wasn't just great the way that it was. I will say, as much as I am scared of the increasing trend of this skinniness epidemic, it is also nice to see the amount of backlash that this epidemic is getting in a way that I don't know if we saw before. Everyone is obviously comparing this to like early Y2K skinniness, and we saw something very similar. Trends have a tendency to repeat themselves, as we know. What we didn't have in the Y2K era was a platform for collective messaging as much. It was only, you know, the news and the news outlets and all those other kinds of things. As much as people hate that there is such a discussion around women's bodies right now, and I understand it, like, maybe guys, we pick another example that's not Ariana Grande. I understand we're all concerned for her, but like, clearly whatever we're saying is not working. That is for her friends and family to handle on their own at this point. Like, pick a different person to put at the forefront of this and be like, we are concerned. Pick a few people. Throw Ariana Grande into a compilation, because you can make a compilation, because people get so caught up in defending like their stan that they're not even gonna, like, y'all don't want to dance, or y'all just want to dance, you want to hear what I have to say. Like, they're just like, don't talk about Ariana Grande's body. And I understand it, as, you know, you have two ends of the spectrum. You have talking about women's bodies when they're bigger, and you have talking about women's bodies when they're smaller. And they are, you know, the same in like, don't talk about women's bodies, but also we gotta talk, girls, because otherwise, if we don't talk, part of the thing that fuels eating disorders is isolation. And by bringing this into a more public conversation, we are gathering community to say, hey guys, this actually isn't what we want, by the way. We don't want to look like we're about on the verge of death. We would actually like a little bit of muscle, a little bit of tone. Can we make that the trend? That's what we want to say. That's what we want to see. Like, this is what we want to see. What I will say is this is all coming from a very Eurocentric beauty standard. There was a lot of conversation on kind of like what Black women look to as the ideal body type versus what white women look to as the ideal body type. But I don't think that differentiation matters as much, especially when you're like on a younger scale. And especially even if there is that differentiation, we still live in an age and an era where white is held as the epitome of the beauty standard. And so whatever the white beauty standard is kind of like trumps the Black beauty standard on the forefront of media, if that makes sense, which means that it's doing that little trickle down thing where you're now getting into the heads of both Black and white younger girls and children, risking equally as detrimental effects on both. This is nothing new. We have been here before. As I've said, this, to be honest with you, the skinniness epidemic never went away. Even in the era of body positivity, there was people always pushing that narrative that skinny was better. And on top of that, we've been here before. As I said before, trends repeat themselves. We've been here in Y2K. However, that means that we are a little bit more well-equipped to handle what is coming our way in this current age of social media and more collective communication. So keep saying, I would say focus less on pointing out the different women who are looking a certain type of way, because I also saw someone say that when you're in that eating disorder mindset, that actually, like, it feels like a compliment more than it feels like someone is asking you to get help or anything that will penetrate through. Start showing love. I mean, people jump so quick to hate on people and talk negative about people. What if instead of the conversation being about what we didn't want to see, what about we put it as what we do want to see? What if we start, showing love and showering and making popular the women who have the more toned, muscular body types that we want to see? Or even, also giving love to our plus size influencers, our plus size celebrities, although the numbers are dwindling. Give compliments, give flowers. It doesn't always have to be rocks in hand ready to throw at somebody. You can give some flowers sometimes. And I think if we show that as a collective, maybe we have a chance of moving the needle, because right now sending hate really doesn't seem to be doing anything. Instead, send love, post yourself, encourage other people who are, living a healthier lifestyle. And by healthier lifestyle, I really do mean like enjoying themselves. That means going beyond the gym, okay? Because a whole other topic that we will get to another day is the war on pleasure. Go out with your friends, have a drink, dance, kiss a rando. You don't have to calorie count the drink, I promise. Like, go have fun. That's what life is about. Skinniness is not what life is about. I mean, if you are doing nothing and sad when you're big, you probably gonna be doing nothing and sad when you small. Like, that's not gonna fix your problem. Community fixes the problem. Love fixes the problem, which is, it's cheesy to say, guys, but like, it's true. Please go dance, have fun. It's summertime. That's my take on it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Bye.